Today I will share with you my top 10 list to make OMAD my daily practice to make it sustainable. Now keep in mind, this is my top 10 list. If you look around the internet, many people have their lists. So take some from me, take some from there, or take all from me, or take all from theirs, because personal fitness is personal. Back on August 8, 2024, I went on a 60-day challenge where I practiced OMAD, 1 meal a day, and walk 1 hour per day, and strength training 3 days a week. As a result, I lost 23 pounds and get to experience a life improvement that I outlined in my previous video, the top 15 benefit. As a disclaimer, I am a sample size of 1. Before you start any diet program or any workout routine, make sure you consult with your doctor, consult with your physician, and consult with your nutritionist. The first on the list is know your why. It is extremely important to know why you do what you do, because without the why, the what, and the how, nothing will stick. So for me, why I wanted to practice OMAD and did all the things along with it is I want to make sure that when I get older, I would not be a burden for my family. That when I get older, I could physically, mentally, and intellectually function at a high level. Obviously, I can only do so much until age caught up to me, but I wanted to delay that aging process as much as possible. The second why for me is elderly care is expensive, and healthcare is expensive. If I can keep myself as healthy as possible, that is one less expense I have to worry about in my golden years. So those are the glue that if I ever try to revert back to my old habits, is something that kept me going and going to make sure that I don't lose sight of what my goal was, of my why. There are plenty of resources on intermittent fasting, 2 meals a day, OMAD, or 1 meal a day, OMAD. But if you're thinking about getting into intermittent fasting or OMAD, I would highly recommend checking out Dr. Jason Fung's books. 2 of them are the Diabetes Code and the Obesity Code. Second on the list is to start slow. If you're on a Western diet where you eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner, you may want to shift to intermittent fasting. Start with 2 meals a day, where you have windows where you fast and window where you feed. Start off with 16-8, where 16 a fasting window and 8 hour feeding window, and then gradually transition to 17-7, 17 of fasting and 7 hours of feeding window. Then graduate to 18-6, 18 of fasting and 6 hours of feeding window, and graduate up to 24, where 20 hours of fasting and 4 hours of feeding. Third on the list is while you're practicing OMAD, you want to eat whole food, food with protein, fat, fruits, and vegetable. The reason you want to eat and focus on those, you want to make sure your body have all the nutrients it needs to function, and your body, your stomach, digests protein a lot slower, and you get more full with whole food versus processed food. The fourth one is to limit processed food. It's to limit empty calories. The reason I say limit, you don't want to eliminate it altogether, because if you eliminate what you enjoy, what you like, then it becomes deprivation, and when it's deprivation, it's not going to stick. So have some of those, but have it sparingly. So for me, I love Coke. And unfortunately, my body cannot process sugar that well. Even just a slight sugar will cause my body to have blurry vision and even frequent urination. So I will sometimes have Coke, but I know that I can only have very little bit. Just to prove how big of a fan I am with Coke, when I went to the Coke factory, I got me the souvenir from Atlanta, Georgia. Once you get adjusted to OMAD with shrinking the feeding window, you can start practicing OMAD. So that leads us to fifth on the list, which is to drink plenty of water. When I first wake up, I would drink 2 cups of water. My first cup would have Himalayan salt mixed with it, because when you fast, your body loses some electrolyte, sodium, magnesium, and potassium. So I start my day off with Himalayan salt mixed with a cup of water. Number 6 on the list is let hunger pass. Believe it or not, hunger is actually habits that you form throughout the years. So when you have that hunger, once you allow it to pass, your hunger hormone will start to reset and adjust itself. When you feel hungry, sometimes it's not really hungry for food, it's more of thirst for fluid, thirst for water. So if that's the case, start maybe drinking water, or you can also drink hot tea or drink black coffee. 7th on the list is make sure you plan your week and plan your day accordingly. If you know you have events coming up, whether it's wedding reception or birthday parties or open house, you want to plan your fasting period and feeding period so that you don't sit around and watch people eat while you are fasting. So for me, I would fast up to the event. So this way, when everyone is eating, I'm also eating. The 8th item on the list is your first 3 to 5 days is going to be tough. That's because your body is adjusting from burning glucose, carbs to energy, to ketone, fat to energy. And it's going to throw a fit because it wants its main source of energy that it was accustomed to, sugar and carbohydrate and glucose, and it's not getting it. So you're going to feel a little bit fatigued, feel a little bit lightheaded maybe, but just make sure you drink plenty of water. And once you get past that 3 to 5 day, you will start to feel more natural. The hunger starts to go away. Your energy start to come in. Your energy start to be more sustained. And your energy, your focus level start to rise up. 9th item on the list is to make sure that your feeding window fits your lifestyle, not the other way around. Because you don't want to make it a chore. You want to make it fit your life, not the other way around. By doing that, you're going to make it stick. You're going to make it sustainable. For me, I find it work best when my feeding window is around the afternoon, so between 2 and 3 o'clock. This way it allows me to get up, do my work, and not have to worry about food, and get my exercise done, and then leave me an hour window to cook the food. And up to 3 o'clock, around 3 o'clock, my family will arrive, and sometime I will have lunch when they have lunch, so I don't smell the food when they cook. And that leads me to the last item on the list, number 10, is to not be around food during your fasting window. I know you might want to test your willpower, but sometimes it can be really tough. Sometimes my family would pop the popcorn or have all these food and I could smell it when I was fasting. Oh, it was so hard to stop the temptation. I was able to do it, but you don't want to push it too far. So stay away from food when you are fasting. And if you want to test your willpower, by all means do so. Once you form the habit and practice OMAD for a couple weeks, that becomes your new habit, that becomes your new way of eating. Really, you don't really think about food anymore. Like right now, as I'm recording this, I'm still fasted, and I plan to eat maybe around 2 o'clock today. I want to end this episode with this. OMAD, 1 meal a day, is new to the Western world, it's new to the medical world, but it's not new to the rest of the world. The Buddhists practice OMAD, 1 meal a day, and there's other religions that have prolonged fasting, 30-day of fasting as well. So fasting is not starvation. Our body is resilient. Our body is more capable than we give it credit for. It can tap into glucose as its form of energy. It can also tap into ketone as its form of energy. But in the Western world, in the Western diet, we are heavily concentrated with carbs. So our body will naturally try to use that as its form of energy. And with carb, if you don't feed it, you'll start to feel lightheaded, you'll start to feel dizziness because you got to keep feeding it and feeding it. And carb and sugar, you have these spikes up and down. But with ketone, is stable source of energy. You don't have that sugar crash. And in the Western world, we don't have a food shortage problem. We have a food surplus problem. We eat 3 times a day, and our serving size is more than the recommended serving size. It's more than what our body needs. And when you eat, when you consume more than what your body needs, our body is smart. It stores that excess energy as fat so that we can retrieve it later for energy. But because we always top off our stomach, we always top off the tank, our body never tap into the stored energy, the stored fat, and we keep feeding it, and now our body has no place to put the fat, so it puts it on the legs, put it in the thigh, put it in the stomach, put it in the face, and when it no longer has the space to store the fat, it's going to start storing the fat around the organ, and that's when it's become unhealthy. That's when the chronic disease start to happen. And when that happens, when we feed our body more energy than it can store, and it has to resort to storing in our organ, around our organ, you don't need fancy medical equipment. You don't need fancy tests. Your body will naturally tell you, hey man, you are having too much energy, you're having too much fat, I don't know where to store. When you start feeling lightheaded, when you start feeling dizzy, when you start feeling tired, huffing and puffing, walking up down the stairs, when you have all this inflammation, these are all the signals that your body is telling you. You need to attend to it. But unfortunately, in a modern world, in a modern medical world, we are more of suppressing a symptom, not fixing the root cause. When we have headaches, we resort to medication. When we have heartburn, we have a heartburn medication. And when we have other chronic diseases, we resort to different medication. But if we just shift from suppression and medication to natural root cause and prevention, I believe we can become a much healthier society. And doing so will enable us to not only live healthy, but to live wealthy.